I woke up because I felt someone standing near my bed. That quiet pressure you feel before you actually hear anything, like the air in the room has changed. I opened my eyes and saw him in the doorway. My son, barefoot, pajama pants wrinkled. His hair flattened on one side like he'd been rolling around for hours. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 12:47 a.m. He didn't look scared. He looked awake. "Mom?" he whispered. I sat up immediately. My heart started racing before I even knew why. "What's wrong, baby?" I asked. "Did you have a bad dream?" He shook his head. "No." That single word made my stomach tighten. He stepped into the room, slow and careful, like he was afraid of breaking something. He stopped just past the foot of my bed, his hands folded together in front of him. "I couldn't sleep," he said. I pulled the blanket closer around myself. "Do you want to come lay with me?" He hesitated, then shook his head again. "I heard you earlier." The room felt suddenly too small. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't pretend to misunderstand. I already knew exactly which moment had followed me into this night. "I woke up," he continued, staring at the carpet, "and you were on the phone." I tried to keep my voice steady. "You weren't supposed to be awake." "I know," he said quickly. "I tried to go back to sleep." That hurt more than if he'd said he was listening. "I wasn't trying to hear," he added, "but the walls are thin." I swallowed. "What did you hear?" I asked, even though my chest was already tight. He looked up at me then. His eyes were clear, too clear for this conversation. "You sounded happy," he said. "Happy. You don't sound like that much anymore." I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. "You were laughing," he went on. "Not like the small laugh you do, like the real one." I felt heat rush to my face. "And then," he said, quieter now, "you said you loved him." The word him landed between us like something fragile and sharp at the same time. I stood up from the bed without realizing I was moving. "Sweetheart, you said it twice," he interrupted gently. "So I knew it wasn't an accident." I froze, not because he challenged me, but because he was calm. "I waited," he said. "I thought maybe you were joking, or talking to Dad." My chest tightened so hard it almost hurt to breathe. "But then you whispered," he continued. "And you don't whisper to Dad." Silence filled the room. I walked toward him, slowly, like I was approaching something that might disappear if I moved too fast. I knelt in front of him so we were eye level. "I didn't mean for you to hear any of that," I said. His eyes dropped. "I know," he said. "That's why I waited until now." I reached out, but stopped inches from touching him. "Why did you come in here?" I asked softly. He thought for a moment. "Because I didn't know if I was allowed to be confused." I felt something inside me crack. "About what?" I asked. He looked at me again, searching my face like he was looking for permission. "About who you love," he said. And in that moment, I understood something terrible. I hadn't just let him overhear a secret. I'd made my child carry it alone. I didn't answer him right away. I couldn't. Because every answer I came up with was either a lie or a truth he was too young to hold. The hallway light spilled in behind him, casting his shadow across my bedroom floor. It looked longer than it should have, like he'd aged a few years just standing there. "Come sit with me," I said finally. This time he did. He climbed onto the edge of the bed, careful not to mess up the blankets. That detail stayed with me. the way he suddenly knew how to take up less space. I wrapped an arm around him, and he leaned in, but only a little. Not the way he used to, when he'd curl into my side without thinking. His head rested against my shoulder. I could feel how tense he was, like his body was waiting for something bad to happen. "I don't want you to worry," I said. He nodded, but didn't relax. "I'm not worried," he replied. "I just don't want to get it wrong." "Get what wrong?" He hesitated. "Love," he said. That word again. So small, so heavy. "When you tell someone you love them," he continued, "does that mean you stop loving everyone else?" I closed my eyes, because the answer mattered more than he knew. "No," I said carefully. "Love isn't like that." He thought about it. I could tell. His forehead tightened, the way it does when he's trying to solve a math problem that almost makes sense. "But it feels like it is," he said. "When you laugh with him." I pulled him closer without asking this time. "That doesn't mean I don't love you," I said quickly. Too quickly. "I know," he replied. "You're my mom." The certainty in his voice nearly broke me. "But," he added, "it makes things different." I didn't argue, because he was right. I kissed the top of his head and felt how warm he was, how real, how much of his world still depended on me being someone he could trust. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He didn't say it's okay. He just nodded once. After a minute, he slid off the bed and walked back toward the door. He stopped there, his hand on the knob. "Mom?" he said. "Yes?" "Next time," he said softly. "Can you talk louder?" I frowned. "Why?" "So I don't have to guess," he said. Then he left. I sat there for a long time after the door closed, listening to the quiet, realizing that the most painful part wasn't being caught. It was knowing my son had been listening and learning in the dark. I didn't follow him. That's what I regret the most. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the closed door, telling myself he just needed space, that he'd go back to sleep, that we'd talk in the morning when everything felt lighter. Morning never fixes things like this. The house woke up before I did. Sunlight crept in through the curtains like it always had, gentle and unforgiving at the same time. I heard cabinets opening, a spoon clinking against a bowl. Normal sounds. I walked into the kitchen and saw him sitting at the table, eating cereal. He didn't look up when I entered. "Good morning," I said. "Morning," he replied. Same word, different tone. My husband stood at the counter, scrolling through his phone, half listening to the news. He kissed my cheek on his way out the door like he always did. Routine. Muscle memory. Nothing about him had changed. Everything about me had. When I poured myself coffee, my hands shook. I noticed my son watching, not my face, but my hands. Like he was cataloging things now, paying attention in a way he never had before. "Are you okay?" I asked him. He nodded. "Yeah." Too fast. On the drive to school, the radio played softly. Normally he'd talk, tell me about a test, a friend, something funny that happened the day before. That morning, he stared out the window. At the red light near the school, he finally spoke. "You don't have to explain," he said. I turned toward him. "Explain what?" "Last night," he said. "I already decided something." My chest tightened. Decided what? He looked at me then, really looked, that I won't listen anymore. The light turned green. I wanted to pull over, to stop the car and ask him what he meant. But the line of cars behind us started honking, and life kept moving the way it always does. Forward, whether you're ready or not. I dropped him off at the curb. He grabbed his backpack, paused, then leaned back in through the open door. "I still love you," he said. Then he hesitated. "But I don't want to hear things that make it hurt." And just like that, he shut the door and walked away. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. A name lit up the screen, the same one from the night before. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I turned the phone face down on the counter. For the first time, I wondered if the cost of being wanted was losing the person who needed me most. That night, I didn't answer the phone. It buzzed once, then again. I let it ring until the screen went dark. The house was quiet in a way that felt earned. Heavy, but honest. I sat on the couch and watched the shadows move across the walls as cars passed outside, thinking about all the moments I'd told myself didn't matter. They always matter. When my son came home, he went straight to his room. No stories, no questions, just the soft click of his door closing behind him. Later, when I tucked him in, he didn't pull away, but he didn't reach for me either. We existed side by side, like we were learning new rules in a world neither of us had chosen. "Mom?" he said, just before I turned off the light. "Yes?" "You don't have to whisper anymore," he said. I felt my throat tighten. "Okay," I replied. He nodded, satisfied. As I stood there in the dark, I realized something I wish I'd understood sooner. Children don't need perfect parents. They need parents who don't make them guess. I left his room and closed the door gently. In the kitchen, my phone sat on the counter, silent. I picked it up. I didn't block the number. I didn't delete it. I just turned the phone off. Because some loves ask to be hidden. And some, the ones that show up barefoot at midnight, deserve the light.